All right, welcome to the Space Weather. Looking at the orange intensity gram here. Sunspot 2734 rises and solar activity increases a little bit, well above forecasted values. Here's a 171 angstroms view, and this is only the last 7 hours of activity. Welcome back, Sunspot 2740, formerly known as Sunspot 2738. As these things get renamed, if they leave the Earth-facing disk, traverse the entire far side of the sun, and re-rise. And that's what's going on now. Let's look at the colored magnetogram and then move on during this very early and compressed Sunday edition. Here's the colored magnetogram. This is an alpha class sunspot. It is large in size, however, not complex magnetically speaking. We got a lot of preppers that watch our channel. So if you're prepping and you don't have a bike, what are you going to do when the grid goes down and there's no gas? How about the most efficient means ever devised to transport humans? The bicycle. Check them out at theveloshop.net. Also, please support my cycling campaign as we've started a GoFundMe. One-time donations are greatly appreciated also. We're still looking to raise another $5,435 for this year's cycling campaign. Please support the channel in other ways too, such as becoming our next patron on Patreon. We've also started a nonprofit organization, and here's the mission. It is to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects, to connect to and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach, to demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, including sciences such as spectroscopy, chemistry, astrophysics, health, wellness, longevity, cosmology, biology, magnetohydrodynamics, geology, etc. Next, to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomena in order to optimize value, reduce risk and liability, save lives and resources, and adapt no matter what the adversity is, and to not be ossified in our beliefs, and to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion. Next, we'll look at the real-time solar wind. Density 4.04 protons per cubic centimeter, speed 447 kilometers per second. Check out spaceweather.com. They got a great image of Sunspot 2738, aka Sunspot 2740. And I would note, 10.7 centimeter radio flux is now at 72. Back to areas well above forecasts. Next, we'll look at spaceweathernews.com. We see just before midnight there was a small B flare, actually a C flare. There you see that right around midnight once again. And a little bit of flaring taking place just in the past hour. There's a magnetometer. KP is at 1. And today we don't see that dip in the electron flux. So more of a steady electron flux now, it looks like. Less of a disparity between the day and the nighttime. For you new viewers out there, the M's represent midnight and the N's represent local noon time for the satellites, which are the GOES 14 and the GOES 15. Charging hazards are non-existent. The F2 layer looks fairly discharged, actually. Quite discharged on the sun-facing portion. And here's your aurora forecasts, and they're looking a little weaker than they did yesterday. Next, we'll look at the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard, as there's a GOES X-ray imager link right there. You should see a C-class flare pop off here just around midnight. 1700, 18, 19, 20. Here comes a C flare, and there's that C flare coming out of Sunspot 2740. Let's move on to other stuff, such as the Gong 2. Here's the data from that, showing us the local magnetic heliosphere environment. This data 1 hour and 22 minutes old. And that sunspot is located around this area, folks. Next, we'll look at the LASCO C2, as there are some coronal mass ejections on there. None are Earth-facing. There's one on the second. There's another small one on the eastern limb on the third. A larger and higher speed one yesterday. And it looks like there was another little flare facing very far north, up in this kind of an orientation, just recently. Probably that C-class flare kicked it off. Let that play through once more before we move on. Right at the end of the video, right there, a small coronal mass ejection there. Again, looked like it was headed very far north and out towards stereo A. Check out inthesky.org for your star charts. We're only 12 hours away from the new moon. Here are the locations of your planets. We'll advance that 1 week. Excuse me. And by then we'll be at a gibbous waxing. For you new viewers out there, stereo A is located right about here. Stereo B is located right about here. And let's go look at the view from stereo A. We'll look at the coronagraph out there, known as the Stereo A Core 2 Space Weather Beacon. Max out the size of this thing for you here and let that data load. And there's the most recent coronal mass ejection associated with that C-class flare. Right before midnight. So right there, you see it coming out, headed very far north and not Earth-facing at all. So let's move on. Total electron content is looking pretty normal. Little higher electron content than yesterday. However, GPSs should still be working well around the whole world, even around the equator. Next, we'll look at magnetosphere movies. And we'll let this play through, as we do daily. This is the data archiving service section of the video, folks. And this top pane here is velocity. We see some variations of solar wind speed coming in from the left. Nothing extraordinary going on here. Here's a density. Don't be dense, understand the magnetosphere. Understand the magnetosphere better than your friends. Keep in mind, white is low density and blue is high density. And we're talking about protons. Next, we have the pressure. And it's about what you would expect. We see a little disparity between the magnetotail pressure and the bow shock pressure. And this follows suit with what we see on the F2 ionosphere map. Thanks, University of Michigan. Next, we'll look at the ground perturbations, the full Earth view and the pole view, starting with the pole view. For you viewers not familiar with the pole flip, pole excursion, magnetic pole reversal, whatever you want to call it, the Earth currently has two North Poles, and the South Pole is migrating toward Western Australia into the Indian Ocean. Believe it or not. Here's a globe view. And we see more activity over the Canadian pole than we do over the Siberian pole. Otherwise, not a whole lot going on there. Let's keep this thing moving. Open up the chat here in a minute. Meanwhile, we'll look at cosmic rays. First, Apatity and Barentsburg. There is the situation at Apatity. And there's Barentsburg.
If you live in the Allentown area,
I guess I'll have to let this ad play, folks.
And you are tired of settling with your career, with your income, with your freedom, then turn up your speakers and listen up. Hi, I'm Scott Yancey, star of A&E's Flipping Vegas. If you have a desire to change...
Okay, enough of that. All right. Thanks for joining, Terrence. How are things in Kitchener? Next, we're going to look at Athens Cosmic Ray Monitor. There's Athens. And if we're not leaving these on the screen long enough for you folks, just hit pause. Hit pause and get your data. Here's Mexico City. Here's Moscow. Some significant variations in the range there at Moscow. Here's Oulu, DOMC, and DOMB Antarctica. Here's DOMC, and here's DOMB. Nothing to write home about on the cosmic ray monitors today, folks. Let's move on here to zooniverse.org. We need humans to classify galaxies, so please head to zooniverse.org. Set yourself a login. Maybe get published in an astronomy paper. Head to the Galaxy Zoo project. Classify a galaxy. Maybe this one. Also, if you like social media companies who ban conservatives and attempt to get Democrats elected, such as Hillary Clinton and now Joe Biden, head to facebook.com/smashomash. Helping to shadow ban voices with which they don't agree since, I don't know, the mid-2000s. Also, check us out on Twitter. And while I don't tweet, check us out there anyway. Especially if you have people who are not getting the videos, who don't watch YouTube videos, also check us out on Instagram, a little more personal. Here's yesterday's shenanigans.
Sometimes you just have to reach for the breakfast of champions. Some champion breakfasts are different than others. What did you have for breakfast?
Yes, it's true. I drink hot sauce. I admit it. And I'm neither proud nor ashamed. Also, check us out on minds.com/smAsho. The social media, which will not censor you. If you enjoy the music we play, check out the SoundCloud links in the description below the video, as well as soundclick.com/goldencatproductions. The music's all original, folks. And here's some more. We're going to blast through earthquakes, as we saw some in California. Largest ones in quite a while there. First of all, we've got one in the Carlsberg Ridge here in the northwestern Indian Ocean. Here we see a deep one in Argentina at a 4.4 magnitude. Here's a 5.1 at depth at India, 4.5 in Taiwan. Shout out David Devine. Did you feel that one? How about a 4.4 in Japan at depth? Suggesting a larger quake will happen soon at the surface. Here's a 4.4 in Papua New Guinea. Same deal, over 100 kilometers depth. Here's a 4.5 at Guam, 5.1 at Japan, a 4.9 at Tonga. Here's a 4.6 at the Northern Mariana Islands, 4.1 at Chile, 4.6 at Japan. Here's the largest quake we've seen in the past 24 hours, I believe, located at Pimpi, Indonesia. Heads up Indonesia. That was at depth 339 kilometers. So that area is not done rocking, folks. Here's a 4.5 at Russia, a 4.2 also at Russia on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Here's a 4.6 at the Philippines, 4.6 at Micronesia, another 4.6 at the Philippines, 5.0 at the Philippines, 4.6 at the Philippines. And check it out, 2 4 magnitude quakes. Ferndale and off the coast. Let's zoom in on that. So you see the locations before we move on to pressure maps. There are the locations there, both sides of the plate boundary, folks. And let's move on here. Here are the pressure maps. We see a low there of south central Colorado, it looks like. There is a low pressure system in between Japan and Kamchatka. Otherwise, nothing too noteworthy here. So if you've had deep quakes, folks, be prepared for a larger quake at the surface. Volcano rundown. Tucono producing a 7,000-foot plume. Kerinci back on the list with a 22,000-foot ash plume there in Sumatra. Popocatépetl back to explosive activity, producing a 22,000-foot plume. Fuego with a 16,000-foot plume. Nevado del Ruiz, new emissions there. Revenador, likely emissions. Sabancaya, not identifiable. and Planchon Peteroa, also not identifiable in satellite data. So a little uptick in volcanoes there. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map, courtesy of AccuWeather.com. As the death toll from Cyclone Fani continues to rise, India has now evacuated over 2 million people. Here's your lightning maps. Check out lightningmaps.org if you haven't already. And we'll look at the water pressure on water vapor map here to see what's going on above my head, as it's going to rain on me today when I go out and police the food supply chain. Yes, that's right, folks. I'm the science cops. I'm not kidding. So we've got a stagnating system here over the mid-Atlantic states, and it's going to take its good old time moving for some reason. And let's zoom in on this area right here. Right here. As it is the convergence zone. So it looks like this system is going to take a turn to the east. It's going to slowly go from a northeast direction to a more easterly direction due to this dry mass of air noted right here. Dry air is more massive and controls the flow of things most times, folks. And when you're looking at the Doppler radar and you're not sure what's going to happen next, check out the water vapor map. AccuWeather's got one too. Here's weather.gov. There are your watches, warnings, advisories, etc. And it looks like we got some flood advisories in Pennsylvania once again. Global warming update. More than 5 meters of snow coast to coast on Greenland. What a hot planet on which we live. What a hot planet. Oh my gosh, it's burning up. Next, we're going to look at more sun stuff, and then we're going to roll out of here as if we just robbed a bank. Which is not to imply that YouTube pays any money on this, quote, monetized, end quote, channel. Because if you want to see us get paid, you're going to have to pay us directly. We're going to look at 304 angstroms. And my computer's low on memory. And I, Daniel Nigro, aka smAsho, your host, is low on patience. So here's the view of 304 angstroms. We do see some filaments around the southwestern limb there, as well as the northwestern limb. But the main focus is that sunspot, right? So it's an ultra early edition today. Thanks everybody for tuning in to the live stream, Terrence, as well as everybody that watches this later in the day. Remember, when you're calling out the names of sunspots before they're named, don't drink. And if you drink, call out the names of sunspots before they're named and just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.